Today on Somewhere in the Ring, we welcome the popular host of the Briesbe YouTube channel, Twitch streamer, content creator, and new WWE fan, Brie.
The following podcast is scheduled for one recording with no time limit. Making their way down to Somewhere in the Ring, Andrew Sanford and Ryan Sprague.
I did not. Andrew, I didn't trip coming down the ramp this time. Did you see that? It was super smooth for the first time ever. Brie, I trip coming down the ramp for our entrance every time. Every time.
It's common. It's so common.
It is.
And it's getting to a point, too, where he's greasing himself up beforehand. So he's getting the distance.
Right.
I am.
Which is good.
Human slip and slide. That's great.
Exactly.
Nothing like a good greased up wrestler. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I guess we should introduce our guest, Andrew.
The people listening don't even know who we are.
I know.
Slow down, Ryan.
I'm sorry. I get so excited once that music hits and the audience starts cheering.
Oh, wait, sorry. Hold on. Yeah, see, you can look at. There's a glazed look over Ryan's eyes now, and he's just adrenaline. And
let's do it. Let's
in
do
the
it.
zone.
We're coming off Clash at the Castle, and guys, with us somewhere in the ring today is Brie from the Briesbe YouTube channel. She is a content creator. She's on Twitch. She's a gamer. She's a cosplayer. She does it all. And now, I'm just going to say it. I think she's one of us. She's now a wrestling fan. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't buy two mommy shirts immediately after watching WrestleMania 40 if you're not way into it. So yes, I am way in.
That is a perfect way to get into this, Brie.
Yeah.
So God bless the digital overlords, the algorithms of YouTube, because you had a video, and I want to get the title right because I want people to go watch it. The video is titled "Everything I Know About WWE After Only Watching 8 Hours of WrestleMania 40." And this, it came across my feed because being a wrestling show, like we obviously subscribe to a lot of wrestling YouTube channels, and boom, this video shows up out of nowhere. And I was like, I love this. Someone who's never seen wrestling before, who doesn't know this crazy world that Andrew and I talk about on a weekly basis, watch every televised event. We've gone to live events. We watch every pay-per-view. And then here you are, like a newbie in our world. And I watched the whole video. You had me dying, cracking up. And you were so afraid of getting so much wrong, but you actually got so much right. So
I'm so glad I did.
Nailed it most of the time.
Yes, we'll get into it. We will mansplain some of the stuff to you,
as you should.
Mark explain some of it to you.
That's the word I was looking for the other day. Yeah. Someone was testing me. One of my wrestling friends was like, "All right, like now, he was like, now I feel like you're in it. Okay, so like, what's a bad guy called?" And I was like, "That's a heel." And he's like, "Yeah." And so I have the vocabulary like mostly down. I know like 3 good words.
3 good. That's all you need.
That's all you need.
Brie, Ryan said plenty about what you do, but would you mind telling us and our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes,
totally. Yeah,
in your own word.
I am a content creator. Like you said, I have been on YouTube and I've actually been on Twitch longer than I've been on YouTube. So I started on Twitch like 8 years ago. And then I moved on to YouTube a little shortly after that, but didn't start taking it really seriously until the past like 2 years. Just because live streaming, the platform kind of changed and got a little bit different. And so what I've mostly been doing is playing retro games and horror games for the past like 8 years. And now, apparently I'm a commentary YouTuber. And apparently a lot of that content's going to be wrestling moving forward because people are requesting it by the droves since that video.
What made you get into live streaming? Because you are obviously a very personable person. You have a great, you're fun, you're funny. Yeah. But like, what made you go, people got to see me?
Yeah, I actually started because I started watching Let's Plays back in, oh God, when did I go to college? 2013. And then when I went away to college to finish my bachelor's, I was really lonely. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can get on the internet and just talk with people. And I start out the same way everybody does, streaming to 1 to 0 viewers. And then eventually time goes on and you've built yourself a whole little community and you don't feel so lonely anymore. So that was why I got into it. But now I continue just because I like being an idiot on the internet for fun. Working for me so far.
I love that.
That's fantastic.
So
I love that too. Is it being like a cure for loneliness? I just think that's very,
absolutely.
That's very nice and makes me happy.
Yeah,
it's good to have communities. I mean, Andrew and I have always watched wrestling, but we were never like hardcore into the community. We weren't like, I mean, maybe I don't know if I'm speaking for you, Andrew, but like we weren't in like these forums and like all these like sort of early days of the internet chat rooms of wrestling. Am I wrong, Andrew?
There I remember years ago, and I probably would have been like 10 or 11, finding an online fantasy wrestling website that I did not understand how it worked at the time, but it was basically like a forum, but people would have matches on there. It was something that my older brother had found, and then so of course I was like, well, I'm gonna pretend to do it. And it was I didn't know how it worked, but I tried as much as an 11-year-old the computer could do.
Was it like, okay, so it was strictly a chat room? Is that what was going on? You were like I'm going to choke slam you into the mat. Like that's what via text.
Yes.
That's the coolest.
Bingo.
I love that.
It was and I think they had a way to like sim the matches in a way that made nobody like that, was fair or what have you.
Yeah.
But and it was, probably as easy as just turning on WrestleMania 2000 and going like, I'm just going to sim this match. But
cool.
Yeah, it was pretty. It's like when I think about it, it was something as far as like innovation is concerned, of people being like, I need to talk about wrestling with other people, but also I want to do wrestling.
Yeah.
But I don't want to take bumps and I don't want to get busted open. So I'm just going to go online and write, I'm putting you through a flaming table.
Space.
Send. Yeah. Space.
Wow. That's amazing.
Brie, when I was 12 or 13, I started a wrestling newsletter online, like wrestling newsletter. And I brag about this all the time to Andrew. I got 4 subscribers.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. And it would take me like a week to make it.
That's such a labor of love.
Tell me about it. Welcome to the world.
You just said we weren't that into this. You just said that.
You both were like,
said that.
We're totally cool guys who
We're
don't.
not
While you're printing off
wrestling
scenes at 12, just like, I gotta make sure. Like, come on, man.
Mom, can you spell check this for me?
That is fascinating. That is the thing that has wowed me the most about the wrestling community is y'all are just so, and I say y'all, but like now I'm in it. It's just like you're so in it, and you're so welcoming and wanting other people to be a part of it. Like immediately, everyone was like, "You should watch this, and you should watch this." And I had people out of the woodwork DMing me on Instagram and being like, "Here's a match I think you would enjoy." So I love that when you're in it, you're like, I want everyone else to be in it too.
Mm-hmm. And I think what helps, Brie, is in your video, it's not you take it very seriously, but seriously, you take it seriously. It's like there are silly, you can still take something serious and acknowledge when it's silly or strange or things like that. You know what I mean? So that, I think that's a big part of it. We welcome people who welcome us.
Yes,
that makes
absolutely.
I love that.
Well, and I want to get to, because you did kind of a follow-up to your video that basically went viral, did numbers on YouTube, and I think a lot of it had to do with wrestling fans like getting in your corner and being like, yes, she gets it, like she Andrew and I clearly have lives outside of liking wrestling, somewhat. But it is a thing that like brought him and I together. We became even closer friends through wrestling. We've been to events together. We obviously started a podcast together. And what I really liked is you did a follow-up to your video as well, where you actually interviewed a wrestler. And I do want to get to that in a little bit, but we do want to cover Clash at the Castle with you a little bit, and we did.
Can you do some news with us? Do some
news with us? I would love to.
Excellent. That sounds great.
Let's do it. Let's hop
into it. Yeah, Clash at the Castle was this past Saturday in Scotland, and it was a pretty big event. And I've had to piece it together. I was at a graduation party for two 17-year-olds, who I swear I'm related to. And I'm not just scoping out graduation parties.
That's good.
But I had it pieced together, and I wanted to. I won't read the full text, or I will. But I want to give everybody Ryan's little mini review of the pay-per-view for me. Let's see. Oh yeah, here we go. Never mind. F this PLE. You're going to love the ending, though.
That's good.
Okay.
I've been sitting with that. Sitting with that one.
In my defense, I live in Scotland. I don't claim to be Scottish. However, I've been there for almost 2 years now. Like, I have a love for it now. I feel like I am a honorary Scotsman in so many ways. So to see someone like our main eventer, Drew McIntyre, be in the main event of a pay-per-view in his like hometown, basically like 30 minutes from where he grew up, this could not have been like a bigger thing for him as a wrestler. He's been wrestling for a very long time. We won't go into the heartbreaking history of him almost winning championships. Like we'll save that for another time. But like, I honestly thought this is it. I thought this man was finally going to do this in front of like thousands of people, his family, his friends, his biggest fans. And then it ended the way it did, which we will get to. But yeah, I was, and as most wrestling fans get, we're very knee jerk and we're very passionate. And once and once that happened at the end of that show, I immediately texted Andrew and I was so mad. And I don't swear often, but I was just going off on what happened. And then what happens, I thought about it and I thought about it. I woke up the next morning and I said, they were right. They were right all along. So yeah, that was kind of my defense of that, I guess.
Brie, was this your second or third pay-per-view, PLE, pardon me, that you watched? Did you watch Backlash?
I did not watch Backlash. I think this was my second. I think we had started to watch, was it King and Queen of the Castle?
Oh, that's right. I forgot. King, Queen of the Ring. Sure.
King of the Ring.
That's what it is. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's right. Wow, very confusing. King and Queen and then Castle soon after.
That's a great
I
point.
don't know if we ever got through that one. So I think this was my second. Yeah.
Cool. So as a second, because I always say like the honeymoon is kind of over after WrestleMania because we're getting into restart and things.
Yeah.
How did it feel excitement wise coming from something like WrestleMania 40 that is built up in such a big way and has all these big, it's paying off 2 years of storylines, a year of storylines, stuff like that. Just that's a little bit more of an immediate payoff. How was that like in terms of excitement or just your general thoughts?
Yeah, I thought that it was going to be, I started the hype, right? Like that was the most hype you could get. That was the Super Bowl. And then we went back into the regular season. So I thought that it was going to be a little slower, a little less interesting, whatever. But I just like, I'm so excited to be in it now that I was like I was like, I don't know that wrestler yet. Right. Like I was so excited to see like, a lot of people in my video, not a lot of people, I'm going to say like 3 or 4 people had said that in that video that I posted, they were like, she kind of looks like Isla Dawn. And I was like, I don't know who that is. And then I saw her in this one and I was like, that's who they said. I was super excited. She's gorgeous. That's such a compliment. But like, I was just super excited to see more wrestlers, some that I knew and some that I didn't. And it was equally as exciting for me as it was for WrestleMania. Maybe more so, actually.
So
awesome.
Can I ask, WrestleMania? Yeah. Who out of WrestleMania came out as your like wrestlers you want to now follow? Clearly, Mommy is one of them.
Yeah, obviously. That was so clear cut for me. I've obviously got a type. And like the rest of Judgment Day, like I remember even without realizing that Damian Priest and Finn Balor were part of Judgment Day as well, I remember seeing them come out for whatever the heck the ladder match was. I don't know what the formal term for it is.
Oh God, that's
so many people at once.
Man.
But I remember like seeing their outfits. Yes, yeah. I remember seeing their outfits and like Damian's hair, and I was like, who are they? I was like, I want to be a part of that. And my friend was like, yeah, that's also Judgment Day. You've got a type. And I was like, heck yeah, I like Judgment Day. So yeah, I immediately latched onto them with my little goth heart. And obviously,
have you seen? I'm so sorry. Have you seen Finn Balor's other persona?
No, he has another persona.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he's called the Demon.
Stop! I love him.
I thought you might. Yes.
When does he do this? When did this come out?
When the moon is full.
It's so funny. It goes back and forth, and we'll get a little bit into this when we talk about the match we asked you to watch. That he had this other persona, and I want to say that's like not how he started. I think that's how he wrestled in New Japan Wrestling. Lovers Not Experts over here. But he will every now and then like just kind of dust it off in the WWE, and it's like a big. They're like, oh no, you're not wrestling Finn Balor, you're wrestling the Demon tonight. Like, and it's.
And do people love that?
Yeah.
I was gonna say I would love that. I feel.
Yeah. I think it just in this day and age they have hit a point where it's harder to do that stuff really consistently. Kind of the more like big over the top. It's kind of why I think Undertaker retired at like just the right time, because we are past a point now where people are going to be like, I wonder if this guy's really dead. Like nobody's going to think that, but there was a time when people would think things like that.
Wait, can he really summon thunder and lightning?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Finn Balor, the Demon. We'll have to have you watch some Demon matches.
I would love to. I'm telling you, like, people will send me stuff and I'll watch whatever they send me, but I go so deep into the behind the scenes videos that WWE puts out. Like I think I've watched the one where they go to Australia twice now. I've been watching a ton of the ones where they explain their tattoos. I just watched one with Damian Priest explaining that he used to have like an Undertaker symbol on one of his tattoos and he had to cover it up when he started wrestling, which I thought was kind of funny. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like where he went with Judgment Day and his persona is very, very similar to the Undertaker. So yeah, I watch a lot and I get a lot of it fed to me now that the algorithm is like, I've heard you like wrestling. So I'm learning every day.
So I remember in the video too, you really seem to like two other people that come to mind were Jade Cargill and Seth freaking Rollins.
Rollins.
Say about them.
Rollins, not Rollins.
Fun little side note tonight. Seth Rollins just came back and he's going to be wrestling Damian Priest at Money in the Bank for the belt.
Really?
That was announced about 40 minutes ago. We're recording for everybody listening. This comes out on Wednesday. We are recording while Raw is happening, but that happened. So Seth Rollins coming back
in real time. We're getting the updates. I love it, Andrew. Keep us posted if anything else huge is happening while we're recording this, please. So Rollins and Jay Cargill, what did you think of these two?
Yeah, I mean, Seth already, my friend had warned me, or rather given me the heads up, and he was like, you're going to love Seth just because if you like the outfits, if you like the over-the-topness of the entrances, that's his thing. So like, just watch. And I was already enthralled with that. And then Jade is just, I like am breathless when Jade comes out. She's huge. I mean, she is just like the embodiment of a strong woman. Same as Rhea and like everybody else. But like you look at her and she is just ripped out of her mind. In fact, at Clash of the Castle, I like looked at her next to everybody else and I was like, oh my God, she's a giant. She's just really impressive.
She lifted two wrestlers at once and body slammed them. Like, say what you want. There were some botches in that match, which I guess we can talk about a little bit. But Jade is still new. I think people are forgetting she's new to the WWE. She's been wrestling for a little while, but in a different company. And this is all new to her. She's still getting used to it. So clearly there's going to be mistakes. It's live. It's like you even say in your video, like these are athletes. These are dancers.
Yeah.
Like these are performers. Things go wrong all the time. But my God, like everyone's talking about these botches and like, oh my God, did you see her like fall off the ropes? Come on. It's like, oh yeah, did you forget the other 50 moves that she did?
Right,
and then she lifted 2 people and come on. I'm just, don't get me started. Don't get me started. But, yeah, I loved hearing that those were 2 that stuck out to you. Seth Rollins. So my fiance refuses to watch wrestling with me. She always is like, watch it. I love that you have this thing. I love that you have a thing. So she will usually go in the other room and study. She's, a PhD candidate. And then her, husband to be is in the other room watching wrestling. But yeah, it is what it is. That being said, Brie, whenever Seth Rollins music comes on, she immediately runs into the room just to see what he's wearing and just to see how long the audience chants his entrance music.
Yes.
So say what you will. She won't watch the matches, but she loves the entrances.
You gotta admire the energy of it all and just the it's like you said, it's a performance, it's a show, and that's something that hadn't clicked with me until I watched it this year. It's like, oh, this is meant to be theater. And I love that. And coming from a theater background, like that is the most enthralling thing I can think of.
Absolutely. I think that's what drew Andrew and I to it too. We also are, Andrew currently works on Broadway. I worked on Broadway for about
as a part.
Yeah.
That's cool though. That's cool.
Thanks, Ryan. We were both
I just like to, relax.
I was not in
direct stuff, but let's not say,
That's so cool.
We're both playwrights,
like single or double.
Yeah, for $50 a pop.
Yeah, sure.
But that being said, like that's why we appreciate the storytelling of this craft.
Yeah.
It's constant, it's evolving, creating these characters, keeping these story arcs going at a constant rate. It's just, I think that's why we have a respect of the craft rather than just it's wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's funny because when you guys sent me a match to watch, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but like the one thing I noticed was that the essence of it, even 24 years ago, is still the same. Like they've somehow managed to keep it fresh and new, but it's still at its core is the same. And that's like really unique to have something that running that long to be able to keep it fresh and still honor the essence of it, I guess, if that makes any sense.
100%.
Yeah.
I would like to move on to that match. So let's just say real quick. Let's just get Clash of the Castle happened.
It
Titles
happened.
Exchanged hands. Some didn't exchange hands. Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest. Brie, what did you think of the match?
Loved it, obviously, because Damian was there. Already a big fan of Damian. I remember, so we watched Sunday morning. We watched it after it had gone live. I, even being a fan of Damian, was already kind of like into the crowd was obviously behind Drew. And I was like, you know what? It would be cool to see him win in front of everybody. As much as I love Judgment Day, this would be so cool, so interesting. The thing that I was obsessing over, and we're okay to talk about the whole match and everything, right? And
everybody, this is a spoiler zone where days removed, so on and so forth.
I was hyperfixating on Damian getting stuck in the rope.
Oh my God.
Because I was like, oh my God, now we're not just like performing an injury, like that could be a real injury. And it was at the beginning. Like he still had a long, and like the way they played it off was amazing. Like Drew helping him and also like keeping in character and stuff was fascinating. But like that was the thing I was fixating on, to the point where after the match, I immediately got on my phone. I was like, how's he doing? Is he okay? Like,
same.
Is he permanently injured?
My last like 5 Google searches was that real?
Yeah.
Did Damian get injured? That was real. As far as I could tell. I know a lot of wrestling fans are still arguing and debating. Welcome to wrestling. The lines are blurred so much that we never truly know. Yeah.
But there's a clip floating around of a ref for one of the matches. It might have been one of the first ones because they might have been showing AJ Styles, but maybe they were showing Drew McIntyre. But a ref showing and kind of being like, "Hey, just a heads up, the ropes are loose."
Top
you can just see them kind of shaking and showing them like, "Hey,
interesting.
the ropes are a little loose." Yeah, and I don't know why that doesn't get fixed or why they don't, but yeah, it didn't happen. And the ropes are no joke. We'll be talking about this gentleman later, but Mick Foley, Mr. Cactus Jack, while wrestling in Germany in the mid '90s, got his head tied up in some of those ropes, which is a kind of a normal thing that happens. They get kind of like twisted up in there. And I can't remember if he got yanked out or Vader yanked him out or if his ear came off. Like his ear came off.
Legit came off.
Yes.
Is that what they were? Okay, so they talked about it in the match where they were like,
did.
"Oh, he's got like his ear's gone from battle or something." And I meant to Google it and be like, "Wait, how actually did he lose his ear?" But it was actually wrestling.
Yeah. It was actually wrestling, and my favorite part of that story that's in Mick Foley's book is about. He's in the hospital. He's trying to tell the nurse, "I would like to keep my ear just for funsies." And I'm sure there's some kind of other reason he had, but he didn't speak German. And he's trying to explain it to her, and he said that she just kind of looked at him and like just went over and stepped on the trash can to open it, and just dropped it right in there and right in front of him, and just walked out of the room.
Oh no!
I would too. Like, if you're a wrestler, and Mick Foley is one of the most extreme wrestlers there ever was. He sacrificed his body to the craft. Dude can barely walk now. It's pretty unfortunate. But you know, like I would want that too, to be completely honest. Put that thing in the Hall of Fame for you know what I mean?
That would be a wild thing to have in a case. Just like, this is Mick Foley's ear.
Here you go.
Amazing. I would see that in a museum for sure. I would go just for the ear.
Just for the ear.
Yeah.
All this being said, like, yes, I think Damian legit got injured and went on for the entire match. I don't know how bad it actually was. He did do a press conference after and said, "I haven't even gone to like the medics yet. Like I'm out here talking to you guys to show you." Right. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah.
But the finish, like especially what's nice here is you got to see WrestleMania 40. You got to see the setup for this that I think everybody was expecting. Were you surprised? And if not, how come?
So I was surprised, number one, that Drew didn't win. I did not have the context for CM Punk. I was not aware of like his whole, I didn't know his shtick. I just knew my friend next to me was like, "Oh, you're joking. Like this is so, I can't believe this is happening." Right. And I was like, I can't believe this is happening either. Who is this guy? I didn't have the context, but now that I do, I feel like I gotta like look into CM Punk a little bit.
Yes, this man is probably one of the most controversial wrestlers ever. I used to hate him. Like
I've heard a lot of people do.
Brian's come a long way.
I've come a long way. He's won me over. He's gotten over, as they say in the wrestling world.
Okay.
You know, to kind of, I guess, him and Drew have had like real beef in real life for a long time.
Have they though? Do we know that?
I believe so.
Is there a real thing? Like, because I know there's real stuff between like CM Punk and Miz yelling at each other on Twitter. I know that there was real stuff between Punk and Rollins. I was not I'm not asking. I'm legitimately asking because I think the McIntyre stuff just came out of the fact that he was the one that happened to injure him at the Rumble.
Maybe
and
that's
they've just kind of gone full hog with it.
This is where the lines get so blurred, and this is where the fun conversations happen. Like, what's real and what's not. I think you're right, Andrew.
Yeah, because Punk and Miz have gone out of their way to like make it clear that they squashed Punk telling Miz to go suck a blood-covered or blood money-covered excrement in Saudi Arabia, which is a pretty good burn. I'm not gonna lie. I did not watch that King and Queen of the Ring for a reason. But it was they have made it clear that has been squashed. But Punk has never, for a lot, he was out of wrestling for so long. There was a period of time where he would just straight up argue with these dudes on Twitter and not hold back. And yes, and while he was doing UFC and acting and all these other things, and then when he finally came back, he joined the competition 2 years ago. He joined AEW, and that place is kind of run like a madhouse, and he didn't take to that very well, and it led to him eventually leaving, and stirring the pot while he's over there as well, and coming back to WWE, which I would, if you would have asked me like 7-8 months ago if that man would ever step foot in WWE ring, I would have said no. There was just no way, because he also
how bad things ended.
He also was suing them over like a doctor that they had. That was a whole thing. It was him and this other wrestler named Colt Cabana. It is a whole. There's probably it's a good 45-minute YouTube video out there that explains it a lot better than I do.
And I would watch it because I love stuff like that.
Do it. Yeah, I don't blame you.
I love real beef.
Try to find the most unbiased version that you can find of somebody laying out the facts. Because even there's a little bias because I like CM Punk. I'm not gonna lie. But he hasn't made a lot.
What
of
about him? Do you like? Do you like that he's a villain? Like, is that the pull for you?
A little bit. There's that. I did appreciate the kind of when he's not wrestling, he is a very honest person. He's a very woke person, as they say. I remember he did a speech at the end of even an AEW event last year, just talking about how important it was to be nice to trans kids. Like he is a good dude.
We love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I recall, he brought a trans flag into the ring and was like,
he does not suffer fools.
That was the day I texted Andrew, and I remember specifically that was the day I texted Andrew and said, "All right, man, all right."
He won me over.
He's won me over.
Yeah, that rules.
That was even before he came back to WWE. But yeah, he's a straight shooter. He does point out a lot of the problematic issues that the WWE has had for a very long time. Andrew and I talk all the time about how female wrestlers were treated for decades and decades and decades.
Or how the sooner Vince McMahon rots in hell, the better. Like there's a lot of like
I've gotten a lot of that from my friends who've been watching for years and years, right? And where they're like, you're coming in at a good time because wrestling now is in good hands, and like the women's matches aren't just like bikini wrestling anymore, right. And like you get I was talking wrestling weirdly enough has made me so much more body positive.
Hell yeah.
And I didn't expect that, right? Because I thought that seeing all these people that were like super fit was going to make me self-conscious, but like it's turned my mind now that when I go to the gym, I'm like, I just want to be the strongest person that I can be, right?
Yeah.
And that comes in so many different body forms. And to see like both women and men in wrestling right now that just have totally different body forms, and that is like encouraged in this era is super cool.
Absolutely.
Right there with you.
You look at someone like Sami Zayn. Like,
you
wouldn't expect that guy to be a wrestler, yet he's one of the most beloved wrestlers today.
Yeah.
That was a big reason I loved Mick Foley, even though now I look at him and I go like, no, he's still pretty, like he's still got some muscle on there. But when I was little, I was a lot heavier, and I just saw like this kind of normal guy. I was like, oh, he makes it like, yeah, I'm right there with you. I love that you've gotten that from wrestling. That just that kind of stuff makes me happy.
Yeah.
So Punk comes in, screws over Drew McIntyre, and even the way they worked the camera to show who the ref was, like,
it was so good.
And there's a little like backstage moment too where you can see him asking somebody for a ref shirt, like it, like now a big thing that you get to see now too, which is all part of like them being bought by TKO, who also owns UFC. Is they try to do a lot more of those like oneers. Like if you see somebody that they're backstage in gorilla position, which is the like right before you go out onto the apron, is called gorilla. They might be like right before that, or the camera will be like on two people arguing, and then it'll cut over to Jey Uso who's walking out to the ring, and it will follow him all the way out there.
It's very Hitchcock,
and
that is all new stuff. That is all new stuff within the last year. Like
they're really giving us a peek behind the curtain more than they ever have. And I think it's making people who aren't into wrestling appreciate it more. Like see how cinematic this really is. You even said in your video, like, this is a soap opera. Yeah. And it is. It's the longest running soap opera ever. And it's one that Andrew and I love. And I watched
Days of Our Lives might have it beat.
I was more of a Guiding Light fan, or As the World
fair enough.
Turns.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All My
again,
Children. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
No, when the Undertaker
Dark
appeared
Shadows,
for
yeah.
WrestleMania 40, that was peak cinema for me. That was like I was screaming, and I'm like, "This is my first time watching wrestling. Why am I screaming?" But it was so like that's what got me into it. Was like, "Wow, this is cinematic."
That's awesome. That's
should we move to the match?
Let's get
Andrew?
to the match. Let's get to the match. I would love to talk about a good old street fight from Royal Rumble 2000 in MSG, one of my favorite places of all time, between Cactus Jack and Triple H. And I had you obviously, I feel like you would have known who Triple H was going into this.
Yes, I'd only seen him like in a suit as like Mr. WWE, right? I have never seen him in the ring before,
As
so
Paul
this was
Levesque.
very
Cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very cool. Any familiarity with Mick Foley before this, and even in like the abstract? Did you watch Boy Meets World growing up?
Was he in?
He's on there like once or twice.
Was he really?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
Actually,
Vader was.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had a couple wrestlers. Yeah, Vader.
Fun.
Jake yeah. Anyways,
I had not. The only reference I had was that last year for Halloween, my friend dressed up as, I think when he's got the mask on, he's Mankind. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so he dressed up as Mankind, like to the nines, had the mask, had the everything, and like talked in the voice all night. That was my only reference, but I couldn't remember what his name was half the time. I was like, which wrestler are you again? And then when I watched this and I saw the promo before, I was like, that one! So I was really excited to recognize him, but otherwise, no concept of Mick Foley's, like, I guess he's got 3 personas. There was like a hippie one at some point. I went to the wiki page. I was fascinated.
Yeah. He's the man of many faces. Yeah, which not a lot of wrestlers do throughout their career. So I mean, they try and they usually fail, to be completely honest. But
yeah, like Triple H is Triple H because when he first was in the WWE, or at least very early on in his WWE tenure, he was Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the man with the silver spoon in his mouth. And it was all like, ascots. And I believe he would go like this. I remember there was a video game that was more of an arcade fighting style where I think you could hit people with a golf club with him. That was a whole.
That's so hard to imagine.
Yeah. I know how gruff he is now. He's come a long way. But yeah, I mean, this is, I believe, Andrew's favorite version of Mick Foley in this match, if I'm not mistaken.
It depends on the day. It really depends on the day.
Does it? Okay.
I would say Dude Love probably never makes it to the forefront for me, even though I think he's a blast. He just didn't get to wrestle too much. I go back and forth between Mankind and Cactus Jack. I love Cactus Jack, but Mankind is like who I fell in love with. You know what I mean? That was the guy. I'm like, oh, look, he doesn't tuck in his button-up shirts either, probably because he can't. I'm projecting, but it was a lot of. So, but I love Cactus Jack, and I've talked about on this show before the moment that they show in the promo in the beginning where he's Mankind. And he's like, I think you know the guy. And he takes his shirt and his mask off and he's Cactus Jack. And Triple H sells it like nobody's business. Triple H is like, whoa, like one of the best sellers.
Well, because Cactus Jack, Brie, is known to be like the extreme version of Mick Foley, the guy who got his ear ripped off or was in Japan wrestling and would do barbed wire matches where his flesh would get ripped apart.
Oh my gosh.
They would fall onto
C4.
Explosions. Yeah, like the craziest extreme wrestling you can possibly think of, which, you do see a little bit of that in this match. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And him as Cactus Jack in the WWE was kind of huge because Vince McMahon's whole thing was if you got popular elsewhere first, he would like come up with something completely new for you when you first showed up. Like the idea that Cody Rhodes came back to WWE 3 years ago at this point with his like AEW entrance and tattoo and music and everything was like unheard of. And it was especially unheard of back then because Vince McMahon got Cactus Jack and was like, okay, you're Mankind now. And we're going to put you in this weird brown suit with the mask, which used to be Undertaker's mask when he broke his nose. And then we're gonna throw you out there, and then
couldn't even get the guy a new mask.
Interesting.
Yeah. So to have them be like, all right, we'll let you be Cactus Jack was like
huge,
a big deal. Yeah. So Ryan and I have talked it off. What were your thoughts on getting to watch something? Because now you've more than I've seen. You've got to like pass the toes and have got a whole foot in there in the pool.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. So
this was the most. This was definitely the most extreme one I've watched so far. I've seen blood at this point, right? Like I expected there to be some blood happening, but like this really was something where I was like, you're really sacrificing your body, like you said. Like this is the only sport I know of that you go into being like, I'm going to get body slammed on a bunch of thumbtacks today. That's it. That's your whole job. And you willingly do it. And that is wild to me. Yeah. This whole match was like, wow, I can't do this. I wouldn't be able to do this. You know, it takes a special amount of, I don't want to say crazy, but like,
I think you can.
Dedication, I think is good.
Dedication is good.
On the border of clinically insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the type of match that I think an earlier, like a younger version of me, like loved. I crave this sort of stuff when I watch wrestling. I rewatched it last night in preparation for this and having you on and everything. And I'm just sitting there and my anxiety was at like peak level. And I was just like, oh my God. Oh, his leg. Oh, where's the blood coming from? Oh my gosh. I just like,
because it's real. You're an adult with like adult aches and pains, and you're like, oh God, that's gonna hurt so bad tomorrow.
15-year-old Ryan was invincible, and now I'm like, I don't even think I could have made it like 5 minutes in that match. I would have been. No,
I was so anxious. I was sitting like knees up to my chest, like watching like this the whole time because I was like, oh, he's gonna have to pull all those thumbtacks out. Like I was just cringing the whole time. It was interesting, but it just wasn't.
Sure.
I don't think I have the same view, like you said. If you were a kid, it's different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and a little, I guess, Andrew. Sorry, buddy. Sort of a setup for the match. I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. The match. We didn't even. It is the street fight between Cactus Jack and Triple H at the 2000 Royal Rumble. Kaboom!
There we go. And at this time, Triple H had just, I believe, married Stephanie McMahon, the daughter,
a big part of it,
of the owner of the WWE, and her and Triple H became like this power couple, power hungry, like firing wrestlers, making sure Triple H was always in the main events. Like there was so much politicking going on. And I don't know if that was real or scripted or a combination.
I mean, we know for a fact that at least some of it was real. Yeah. And they also, Brie, Triple H had been with a wrestler named Chyna, who was in his group, Degeneration X.
You would love her.
That's what people have told me. I've heard of Chyna.
She's basically
like Rhea back in the day. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And she was one of the, it's something that they don't do as much now. She would wrestle men all the time, which is happening in almost every other company except the WWE, which is unacceptable in my opinion at this point. Just like, yes, exactly. Like you get like, it's wrestling. It's staged. Yes.
Right. Like, you're not.
Exactly.
They're not going to kill each other.
Right. So why can't anyone fight anyone?
We had a female wrestler on the show like 2 weeks ago who won a intergender tag team championship. So don't tell me it can't be done. Yeah.
TNA does it. AEW does it. WWE's got to step up. My little mini soapbox. But Chyna had been dating Triple H, and then I believe it was like the rumor / not a rumor that like Stephanie worked her way in and split them up, and then she got to be with him, and then eventually got Chyna fired, all while the storyline playing out on screen was that Triple H had drugged Stephanie, who was at the time supposed to be engaged to a wrestler named Test, and then married her while she was passed out at a drive-through. Yes, I'm sorry. I just
forgot
this
all of
is
this.
the others. Oh, I know you did. Like it's one of those drive-through chapels in Vegas, and he's like got his arm around her. He's like, "Yes, I do." Like it is And it is played for like such comedy, and then she just like gets Stockholm syndrome or whatever you would want to call it, and is fine and is cool with it.
Are they
afterwards.
really married in real life?
They are. They got
are.
kids.
Okay,
everything.
I thought so. I thought I looked it up, and it was like, oh wow, they're actually married.
Yeah,
they are. Yeah, but it started like with some weird backstage stuff and some weird onstage stuff,
which they have done many times. There are many examples where, couples have infidelities that they then bring into the real storylines, or even wrestlers like family members dying and they're brought up in storyline to get some heat, as they call it. Like this is the problems with the WWE that people like CM Punk have pointed out in the past. But again, like when you have the longest running live storytelling event ever, like the lines get so blurred and they just, and it was the Wild West back then. Yeah.
Right. It's reality TV where you can just cut in whatever somebody says in whatever order you want to make the story you want, except it's almost worse because now you gotta willingly act it out. Like that feels bad.
This is just a genuine question. Triple H gets hit in the head with barbed wire bat, right? He goes down, he comes up, he's got the blood going. Do you know how the blood happens?
Oh, okay. So a thing that I've been told, I don't know if this is for true, but back in the day, I heard they used to have like razor blades like hidden in their little cufflets or whatever, and they would. Yep. Oh, so is that how that happened?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. You could also kind of see even when he hits him, that camera goes way up. All of a sudden, we're seeing like the third rope and like the top half of Mick Foley's body, and then a bunch of the audience for no reason because Triple H is down there going.
Yes, they will often. They call it blading. They'll do it at the hair. I can't believe we're doing this, Andrew. We're like, we're gonna get.
I think look, anybody. If Darren Aronofsky didn't get in trouble for it, we're not going to get in trouble for it.
Okay, that's fair.
Are you not supposed to know that?
At a time, no. Now I think those doors have long been kicked open and knocked down, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Here they cut above the eyebrow, anywhere where it would heal and it wouldn't like mutilate.
And you would bleed a lot. Your head bleeds a ton.
Like it's actually blood. I mean, look at this match. The dude had a crimson mask at one point. It was very unsettling. I can't imagine being a kid, like a 6-7-year-old, at that Royal Rumble and seeing a match like that. You know what I mean?
I could do you one better. If you watch Beyond the Mat, which I would highly recommend that you do, which was a documentary that came out in the late 90s, you will see Mick Foley post getting beat up real bad. I forget which match it is, but he's bleeding and everything.
It was
going backstage and seeing.
I was just told about that. Yes, I was just told about that match.
Freaking out.
Yeah, because beforehand they had to sit down and be like, "Listen, The Rock and I are still friends. Like it's okay." Yep. Oh yeah, I did just hear about that.
Well, and I know you are watching the custody match. We did an entire episode on the Dominic custody match where he even admitted as a kid, like, I knew it was like not quote unquote real, but I did legitimately think that if that guy won, Eddie Guerrero won, I was gonna go home with him.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Kids don't know.
So unhealthy.
I don't know. Kids don't know. I was watching this just to, the first chair shot to the head. They don't do chair shots to the head anymore, at least not in WWE. That first one, because it's just concussion syndrome. And that first one, I was like, oh boy. I remember too at a time, I'm like, why even do chairs? Why hit somebody in the back? Who cares? And now I just watch it and I'm just like, oh yeah, no, you can't do that to people anymore. Like you can't, we just, that's not healthy. Like,
it was interesting watching this match right after I had just watched the AJ Styles Cody Rhodes match because they also pulled out the handcuffs and stuff that I had never seen before. And then I go and watch this one. And at one point when we were watching the Cody Rhodes match, my friend, he like pulled out the bag that had the handcuffs. And my friend next to me goes, "Oh, is that thumbtacks?" And I was like, "What?" And it ended up being handcuffs. I was like, oh, thank God. And then I went to watch the match later and I was like, oh no, those are thumbtacks, right? Like it was real.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Like these matches, the Royal Rumble one we had you watch, the street fight, and the most previous AJ Styles Cody Rhodes match, they were very similar in many ways. Yeah,
and I don't know if that's normal out of like an I Quit or a street fight or whatever. It kind of feels like anything goes with either of those. So that maybe those were like classic things coming back up. It was a funny parallel having just watched it and then going to the Mick Foley match.
Who did you want to win this match, Brie? If I had to ask, who did you want to come out on top in this street fight? Not really knowing much about the characters, I guess.
Yeah, I guess Triple H, just because Mick Foley was just so unhinged, and I was like, "Ooh, I just want this to be done." One of them's gonna like actually kill each other. Like this is so scary. So yeah, I feel like I was going for Triple H there.
And because I feel like you already watched the '98 Hell in a Cell, right? Or at least people.
No, I'm going to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because there's a sister match, pretty much, where a month after this, like a month, maybe more, maybe like give or two a week or two, Mick Foley or Cactus Jack fights Triple H in a Hell in a Cell match. That gets almost as brutal as this one does.
I've heard that's why everyone's been requesting it, I think, because it's just really brutal, like peak extreme.
Yeah. And that string from like this Royal Rumble to WrestleMania 2000 is real good stuff. Real good stuff.
And again, it's why Mick Foley can no longer bend over to pick up a ball to play with his.
Probably.
That's so brutal. You said he wrote a book?
He's written several. Yeah. And there was he wrote several books, and then he came out with a documentary a few years ago where he dressed up as Santa every day for a whole year, I believe, and was going around being Santa for people. Yeah. Yeah.
I think is it like
loves Santa and he
loves it. He does it for charity.
Okay.
I love that. Just a documentary about it.
Yeah. He seems really nice. I like went and looked at his wiki page after, and I was like, okay, he seems very cool. I did not know about the Santa thing. I think I'm gonna have to read a book or two after this because that's really funny.
Oh yeah, he's great.
I will lead off real quick and give my example, but I want to ask you to what was your favorite part of the match? Mine, which I cannot deny when my body does something, even though I used to have a VHS that had several matches. This was on there, so I've seen this match a ton. Haven't watched it in a while. I got chills when The Rock came out and hit Triple H with a chair when he was about to hit Mick Foley. Yes. And the way they staged it, everything, he just popped up out of nowhere, whacked Triple H with a chair, and I was like, whoa! Like I got chills, and I knew it was coming. Brie, what was your favorite part of the match?
I totally forgot about that, and it's funny. I have my notes next to me. I took notes because I don't know. That's how I am.
Oh, please wait! No. Okay, no. Hold on.
Yeah.
I would like you to see, just because I had to show this to my wife too. This is the outline that Ryan sent me beforehand.
Oh my God!
I am the over preparer.
He sent me this 30 minutes before we were supposed to sit down.
That is so impressive. I am really impressed with just how on it he has been this whole time. I'm going to be real. So professional.
Don't get me wrong. He's
great.
I have too much time on my hands.
No. My notes are not quite as in depth. I'm going to read some bullets off for you right here. Okay, here we go. We'll start midway through. Because I was just like, this very similar tension and camera angles and energy, over the past 24 years, blah, blah, blah. No one cares about that. Now we get into the full capital.
No, I like that. No, hold on. Because I do think that's very intriguing. Thank you very much. What about the camera angles? Did you know? What about, was it just a symmetry that you thought was similar?
Yeah, it was just, I noticed that in the 24 years, right? They're still using the same, it's conveyed the same way. It's tradition. And I think it's interesting to have tradition in something like a camera angle or something like, so I was just making
awesome.
About that.
Don't hide from those. That's why you're here.
That has so much to do with wrestling. Because if you capture a move on camera from the wrong angle, it totally gives away
It's everything.
what happened. So
Yeah.
the illusion, like the camera people are the unsung heroes of the
Shout out
WWE.
to them for real.
Oh
Like,
my gosh, yeah.
you gotta train for that sort of thing.
Oh yeah. Every single moment is like predetermined. You know, well, I shouldn't say that. Every
improv. There's some improv. Sorry, Brie. Back to your bullet points, please. Please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll get down to the ones. So the first one below that is just screeching. He's pulled out a barbed wire club, and then, oh, is that real blood? Oh, that's a lot of blood. And then, oh my God, the bite, because he bit him. Apparently, I remember him biting him. And then I said, "Wait, did he really lose his ear in combat?" Apparently, he did. And then in all caps,
Incredible.
The Rock.
Yeah.
First of all, I love that you called it in combat, like he was in Vietnam.
Well, I think that's
I think they said combat though.
I think that's either Lawler or
that doesn't surprise me. Those two. Oh, well, that's another whole aspect we didn't even bring up.
The commentators.
The commentators. How much they add to all of this, and that duo that you heard during that match is like the most famous commentator duo of all time.
Yeah.
Jerry the King Lawler, JR. What, Andrew?
Nothing.
Okay.
Not Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg's not considered one of the best commentators. That was pretty funny. I caught the tail end. It was great.
Oh yeah. Snoop Dogg on commentary, please.
Yeah,
and
I
less
did that for a baseball game the other day too, like the Brewers. Like he's.
I love he's doing side quests. Just like I've already done it all. Let me just go like commentate wrestling and baseball.
Like, oh, that good thing I finished the game, but these didn't go away, so I'm gonna go. I gotta get back in there.
I've got 50 boxes of gin and juice. Who's gonna take these? Come on.
He made a kids show. I don't know if you knew he made like a children's show for his grandchildren. I'm pretty sure, or something. This is not about Snoop Dogg, but pretty great.
Snoop Dogg appreciation.
Everything about Snoop Dogg. Like, when we really break it down?
Yeah. He's great. He's great. Anyway, my favorite part of that match, I'm gonna have to say I did enjoy when The Rock came out. I did. I was laughing when the cop came out and just like casually like unlocked him.
You know what's even funnier? There is a 99% chance that was a wrestler who did not wrestle that night, who they just threw a cop uniform on and sent out there.
I love
that was one of NYPD's finest, Andrew. Come on.
Yeah. And they were like, I have the key right here. Hold on, I got you. Like, it was very funny. No notes, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. All right. You know what my favorite part of this match was, guys? That there was a manhole cover in the middle of Madison Square Garden that led down to a sewer, I'm assuming, with the Ninja Turtles
it must
something.
Have.
That added so much to the street match. I loved it. And my dad was watching it with me, and he was like, is that a manhole cover? I'm like, yeah. He's like, in the middle of a stadium? And I'm like, yes, Dad, this is Royal Rumble 2000.
Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's Madison Square Garden.
You know what else I thought was wild? So I've only watched wrestlers like really go into the crowd. I think Roman and Cody was the only thing I saw, but like there was a lot of security pushing people back. This match, they were in it. I mean, people were on them. Like it was, it was the Wild West.
Too. I was thinking that too when I watched this. I'm like, there's no security. Like, and back in the day, Brie, like these wrestlers they could get pretty harmed
people
by
like
fans.
Took it seriously, right? Like there were different wrestlers who, like heels that I've heard were actually attacked in real life,
stabbed while in the ring. There's this famous event where a wrestler there was a riot that happened after he won a match because he was an African American wrestler down in the Deep South who won a match, and all these fans like rioted and came into the ring. But being the smart wrestler he is, he had a gun in his like ankle sock ready for a situation like this. He's like, I was in the South. Of course I was carrying a piece in my gear. So
that's crazy.
That's how real a lot of these fans take this stuff.
And now we got Cody Rhodes crowd surfing in Scotland.
I know, I saw that. I know. I was like, well, that is bold.
Take me.
Yep. Watch my hair. Don't touch my hair.
Well, it's like CM
everybody else has to watch out for that.
Getting with the crowd, and he was like, I thought I was going to get like jumped, and he actually found some fans over there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I know. I was really afraid for CM Punk at the end of that Clash at the Castle thing because those Scots do not mess around. But anyways,
and you've always said that even before you lived in Scotland. Yep.
Totally.
Seen your T-shirts.
Seen your T-shirts. Yeah.
Well, that's the street fight, right? Yeah, and I think that's it. Brie, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Heck yeah,
this was a delight.
Oh
my goodness!
I feel like we could talk for hours.
To watch more of you and hear more from you and follow your wrestling journey and watch all the other cool videos that you're doing, where can they find you?
Yeah, I am on YouTube. You just find me, Briesbe, Briesbe. I don't know what kind of videos are gonna follow after this. I'm definitely doing a watching everyone's suggested matches thing, and I just recorded one with about car jitsu. That'll come out eventually. If you don't know, that's jujitsu in a car.
I kind of assumed, but I was almost hoping you were going to tell me something different.
Right.
But that's still pretty great. Yeah.
So that's where you can find me. I'm also on Twitch sometimes, but
nice.
that's where I'm at.
Good. Hell yeah.
Last question for you, Brie. You sent me a photo that we're going to use for the cover image, for like our thumbnails and all that good stuff, with your wrestling character that you created, and you had a title belt. So I have to ask, where did you get that belt?
Thank you, Ryan.
And who is your wrestling character, please?
Yeah. So the belt, unfortunately not mine. Borrowed it from my friend who had us over for Wrestlemania. Nice. So it is his. It has his name on it. It was custom made for him as a Christmas gift, and like they did this whole thing where they wrestled in the living room as they always do, and like they pulled out the real belt. That was his gift. It was very cute.
That's awesome.
But my wrestling persona, Briesbe with 2 E's at the end, she's queen of the colony. She's single mom of 20,000 or whatever it was. And my finishing move is Buzzkill, where I go to one end of the ring and then full speed turn around and hit people with my butt. And that's the finishing. That's Buzzkill.
You have thought this. I love it. Wow.
No, I thought about it.
Well done.
Full character. Yeah. Wow. It makes me feel lazy. I got to get on my character. I know, Andrew,
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
I have mine, but it's heavy A because, and no, I don't have any weight issues from this nickname that was given to me when I was 12. Why would you even ask? But Ryan, where can people find you? No, we're not talking about it. Ryan, where can people find you?
Oh God, we're just gonna glaze right over that. Okay. You can find me all over whatever, YouTube, Twitter, Ryan Sprague, look it up, YouTube. I already said that. Wherever you get your podcasts, you could find Somewhere in the Ring. We have a side series called Somewhere in the Indies where we interview independent wrestlers about their journeys, their challenges in breaking into the business and trying to make it to the top. Check out Somewhere in the Indies as well. And I, of course, host the Somewhere in the Skies podcast, all about UFOs. And I found out today we actually hit number 3 on the Apple charts in the social sciences. So yes. Congrats, so if you can, guys, please go rate and review Somewhere in the Skies. Let's bump that up to number 1. I would absolutely love that. So when I'm not UFOing, I'm doing this wrestling podcast with one of my closest friends, Andrew. So Andrew, let us know where I can find everything you're up to, buddy.
At Sanford-Son on Twitter. Name is no longer accurate. Half white son of a black man on Instagram. And I have a short that I wrote that'll probably be doing some festival stuff this summer. So that's very exciting. And then go watch Pay the Tithe, which is a horror film that I wrote and directed. It's a horror short that I wrote and directed that came out a little over a year ago. It's on Vimeo. I'll send Ryan the link. Maybe Ryan can put it in the link notes. I never talk about that one on here, but I should.
2 thumbs up for me.
Pay the Tithe. Thanks, baby.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Watch that. That sounds funny.
We will send you the link. That's your
please
enthusiasm means the world to me. Thank you.
It's happening. Brie, I know Mommy will be back very soon from her injuries, so
and also Brie,
see that.
Don't be a stranger. We would love to have you back on. You're fantastic.
Super fun.
Yeah, and we would love to talk more wrestling with you.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely. And we have to ask, before you go, we have our guests do this. Can you ring the bell and finish this match for us.
Whatever that means to you. Whatever that means to you.
Interpret
that
as you will.
I'm gonna ring the bell. Ding ding. There it is.
Perfect.
She's
Perfect.
got it.
Thank you, Brie.
Thanks, Brie.
Thank you.
This has been Somewhere in the Ring. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your pods, and be sure to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever possible. We'll see you again soon, somewhere in the ring.